We've worked with thousands of sales teams and tens of thousands of salespeople. Sales is one of those areas where change is very slow to happen. The sales profession is extraordinarily conservative and fixed in its ways. Moreover, the attitude of business towards sales hasn't changed much in at least 50 years. When you look closely, companies essentially adopt one of two approaches to running their sales operation. We call it personality versus playbook. The essential difference between the two approaches or models is this. In the personality model, it's the individual salesperson who determines what happens in terms of positioning, company messaging, and execution. In the playbook model, it's the company that prescribes the boundaries and retains control of its messaging and quality of dialogue and value delivery. The personality approach simply requires that the company delegates or palms off the development and execution of its messaging, and as a result, its value delivery and proposition to the seller. It assumes, for example, that the salesperson can read the founder's mind and the minds of the marketing and product departments. It elevates sales experience ahead of the salesperson internalizing the unique value your company offers, so buyers never get to hear your story or the story you need them to hear. The personality model means the salesperson has to take the time, often measured in years, to figure out what might work. And in the meantime, the company has no influence nor control over how its positioning and messaging are executed in the marketplace. It's a lose-lose-lose game. The company, the seller, and the buyer all lose. The personality approach is also recruitment dependent because you keep hiring salespeople until you stumble across someone who seems to have the required magic powers to read the mind of the CEO or founder. The playbook model assumes that the company needs to know its own mind, and therefore is in charge of producing a playbook and hiring salespeople with that playbook in mind. So the company specifies the positioning and the pitches and the ways of working that are designed to deliver the required results in the required timelines. This is a win-win-win approach because the company, the seller, and the buyer all experience better outcomes. When a salesperson joins a company, whether experienced or not, they stand a far better chance of succeeding. And if they fail, it's easier to establish if it was simply the wrong person that was hired. Which model you pick could be a matter of what you believe. However, if you need to grow your company significantly in the next couple of years, whatever the reason for that pressure, it's very unlikely that the personality model will get you there. On the other hand, a practice playbook model will greatly increase the odds that your sales team can become the guarantor of growth. One of the reasons the personality model, with its endless requirement to replace salespeople, has been so prevalent is that it has been very difficult for companies to build a sales playbook. It's no easy task to put together everything that's going on in the head of the founder or the CEO, and add in all the marketing, product, and sales know-how. It's even quite common that your marketing department will effectively have a playbook, but it never makes its way to sales. And you'll often hear marketing people complain that all the good work they do and the good messaging never seem to turn up in sales conversations. In the last few years, it's become much more common to record conversations with prospects and customers, so marketing people can now confirm that the company's positioning and key messages never make it to the front lines. In other words, everyone is saying something different in their own words, instead of everyone saying the same thing in their own words. Equipping salespeople and the sales team is no easy task, which is why, when presented with the task, the CEO or even the head of sales will try to avoid getting into too much detail around playbooks and content. So instead, they'll outsource training to a sales trainer who, by definition, can only train general sales approaches, techniques, and some frameworks and methodologies. What a sales trainer cannot do is help the sales team internalize the company's positioning and messaging and key pitches. That's why the traditional sales training model of trainer as preacher is of very limited value in terms of enhancing sales performance. It might make you feel good and make you feel that you've invested in the sales team, but it hasn't moved the needle. If you need any proof of this, you only have to look at the tech industry, where there is no end of training and methodologies and tools and toys, and yet the average tenure of a salesperson is 17 months. So something's not right. In a perfect world, the CEO or the head of sales needs to be able to build a playbook that reflects the company's approach to not just pipeline management, but the company's positioning, the key personas that the company interacts with, and the key pitches that create leads and opportunities and that convert deals. If you're in a bigger company, you will hire an enablement manager to do this, and it actually turns out to be a full-time job. In a smaller company, it's very unlikely a single person will be dedicated to supporting the sales team at this level. Yet, if anything, sales teams in smaller companies need more support than those in their larger counterparts. Let's take two extremes. In a well-established company with a well-known name, and especially if the name has brand status within the category, the buyer sees the brand first, the product second, and the salesperson third. It's the salesperson's job not to screw up, and if they do, it will be obvious to the buyer because they'll already know the brand, and they will have expectations around that. If you're a much smaller company that is not well known or is trying to do something new, the buyer notices the salesperson first, the company second, and the product third. So you could have the best product on the planet, and you probably have a better product than anyone else in the sector. But the customer or the prospect can't get to see that until they've decided if the salesperson is of value to them in the first place. So guess who needs the playbook? There are always multiple challenges in sales operations relating to the performance of the salespeople, lead generation, building the pipeline, accurate forecasting, converting deals, and attracting the right type of business. But there is actually a root cause for all of those problems, and that's this. There's no alignment within the company on the core positioning and messaging of the company and its product or products. Until you fix messaging, you can fix nothing. And when you fix messaging, you fix everything. So three things need to happen. The first is that some group of people have to work together to come up with a clear positioning and messaging that can be used by sales. That will definitely include the sales and marketing departments, but it is also likely to have to include product and related technical people, plus customer success and senior management. This alignment piece is critical, and when it's absent, it literally obstructs growth. The second thing that needs to happen is that a light playbook needs to be produced that clearly describes the company's positioning, its personas, key pitches, and messaging. The third thing that needs to happen is that the playbook is practiced offline, away from the market by the salespeople, so that when they talk to prospects and customers, they are extremely fluent in what we call differentiated dialogue, where they can get across the company's value very clearly. Essentially, you need a playbook that supports positioning, pitch, and practice. The tools now exist to make it easy for a company to build a playbook that reflects its unique positioning and messaging, and then to progressively update that playbook over time, not just through practice, but through inputs from live interactions with prospects. We call this the dynamic playbook. Interestingly, it often starts off in the marketing and not the sales department. Ask yourself this question. If you had just hired a salesperson into your sales operation, would you prefer that they go out into the marketplace leaning on their sales personality or having practiced the playbook that delivers value to your audience? The answer might depend on what you need to accomplish this year and next year.